at Shareflo, we have a slogan, experience more, want less. And I read in one of your blog articles that you also have a similar one, that you want to inspire others to consume less and explore more. Where did
Hmm.
that desire really stem from?
I mean, I think it's just kind of some people are innately more minimalists. I was raised by a mom who, instead of kind of hoarding stuff or collecting stuff, was like constantly purging our house of things that we didn't use, giving stuff away, and kind of instilled in me and my little brother the idea of you only have what you need and what you use, and if you don't need it or use it, if you don't really like it, then there's no sense in having it, just having stuff for stuff's sake. So I've also traveled quite a bit in the last, I would say, 5 years. And when you travel a lot, you really learn how much you need, and the just the amount of stuff that you may have, let's say in a home or apartment, and don't ever use or don't need. And currently, for the last 6 months, I've actually been living completely out of my suitcases, and it's allowed me to just pare down everything. I travel from city to city, working with Rome on launching new properties and visiting our team, which is all over the world. And one of the fun things about packing up and moving from one city to go to another is it always gives me the chance to pretty much take inventory of every item I own and say, do I really need this? Do I use this? And I'm at the point now where I think all of my earthly possessions are in about 4 suitcases total.
Oh,
One of
wow.
them's large and the other are smaller. And it's so freeing to go to be in any place, whether it's Miami, which I'll be in 2 weeks, or London or Tokyo in December, and be able to just swap out my cold clothes for my warm clothes and know that everything I have is something I actually use and love. Um, I just think it's incredibly important. It's incredibly freeing. There's an old saying about how much, if you gather, collect things and stuff, the stuff you own, begins to own you. And I think that's
Mhm.
very true. And it's something in our society of kind of like fast and easy, disposable everything. I think it's something that's been lost. And I don't think people realize the mental toll that takes on them.
Yeah, definitely. That was actually one of my follow up questions. Was gonna ask, like, now that you've traveled so much, are you now consider yourself as a professional packer? So I guess you
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
are at this point.
I
um,
may not be able to like gold medal in packing, but I could at least bronze. Like I definitely can get packed up in about 15 minutes. I have small bags and reusable totes for all sorts of different things. There's something just very fulfilling to me, at least, to pack up in a very organized way and be able to get to a new destination and unpack all of my stuff and just be ready to go within like 30 minutes. And it kind of scratches that OCD side of my brain.
Definitely.
So, our next question is: when did you know that the entrepreneur, just free lifestyle was for you?
I think I realized it my senior year of college. I had started my first real business when I was 19, and that was importing and reselling jewelry and online, mostly on eBay. And I was a senior, I think maybe I was 22, and I was almost done with school for my English literature degree, but I needed a class in Spanish. I needed like 4 credits in Spanish. And I tried to get them to waive it. They said they wouldn't. It would have taken me another 2 semesters just for that one class. At the end of the day, I thought about it and I was like, my English literature degree from UNR in Reno, Nevada, is not really going to be a make or break in my career. And I kind of realized that I liked the creative side of entrepreneurialism, the ability to just control my own destiny more. So I decided to drop out of school with one course to go to graduate. And
Wow.
I think when I made that decision, I just kind of said, okay, I'm going to commit to this kind of lifestyle, and just went from there.
That's amazing. So what exactly inspired you to create Rome?
So I didn't found Rome. Rome is the first company
Okay.
that I joined,
Okay.
and it was founded about beginning of this year. by a guy named Bruno Haid, and his background was growing up in Austria in a small family bed and breakfast, hospitality, then tech. And as he was traveling around the world after he sold his last company, he kind of realized the opportunity and the benefit of co-living, both from a community aspect. Like when you travel a lot, it's amazing and exciting to travel and go new places, but it does get very lonely. And then from a comfort and productivity standpoint, if you're traveling a lot and you're working, it's really important to know what you can expect, like to know the bathrooms are going to be awesome, to know the bed is going to be comfortable, to know that where you're staying is comfortable, and then also to know you're going to have strong Wi-Fi, you're going to have a place where you can work. So those were kind of realizations he had, and he started by building out Rome, and now we have properties in Ubud, Bali, Miami, Florida, London in the Kensington area, and we're opening Tokyo in December.
That's awesome. How does someone really get started with Rome? Do they have to have job security, or is it more of a freelance type base?
So Rome is, I mean, we have roamers that are at all stages of life. We've got baby boomers who are retired. We have people that are digital nomads. We have professionals that travel to some of our cities for work. And I would say you can either roam short term. So maybe you can come and join us for a few days or 2 weeks in Miami or London or Bali. I spent 2 weeks in Bali a few months ago and it was amazing. Or you can say, hey, instead of choosing to live in an apartment in London or Miami by myself, I'm going to live long term at Rome. And instead of having my own tiny kitchen, I'm going to have a shared chef's kitchen and experience that sense of community. So those are the two types of offerings we have. And one thing we're noticing is more and more our roamers are starting to actually skew towards longer term roamers. And that's really what we're excited about, which is the future of housing. Right. Like how can you upset the housing sack, so to speak? So instead of having 30 units with individuals in them and a tiny kitchen, a tiny living room, and a tiny bedroom, how about just provide amazing bedrooms and bathrooms and then have them share common stuff like living spaces, working spaces, and beautiful kitchens.
That's really true. So what is a typical day like for someone who uses Roam? Is there set schedules, or is it, really you're free to roam, so to speak?
Absolutely. So we have community managers on each of our properties, and they are really great at being the local ambassador. So if you have any questions, if you want to know where to go in Miami or Bali or London, they can tell you. If you want to make reservations, they can help you. They also put on 5 to 10 community events each month, and these range from family dinners once a week to a big event that brings in the outside community into the Rome walls, so to speak.
Wow. So, Maren, what's your favorite city to work in?
So it's funny, it's always changing. I feel like I'm always super excited about whatever city I'm in. I'm in London right now, and I'm really enjoying working from here. The internet is good everywhere. The location's beautiful. There's just so much to do in London. It's like an even larger New York. Oh, wow. So I'm really enjoying London, but I also have a passion for Tokyo. Always have loved that city, and I find it fun to go to smaller areas like Costa Rica or the Virgin Islands and work from like a small tropical locale for a few weeks. I just think it's kind of good to change it up and get off the beaten path, and it helps spur creativity.
Definitely, I would have to agree with that. For staying on focus and adapting to a new environment, what are some key tips, or what have helped you over the years with that?
Working abroad, virtually?
Yes, just adapting to a new environment.
Honestly, the biggest thing is making sure there's a place where you can get connectivity, setting a a daily schedule. I'm very big about daily schedules. I have my little notebook, and each day I write out the day and the time. I set one goal for myself for the day. And at first, this seemed kind of weird and minimalistic, but one of my advisors taught me this years ago, and it's absolutely like a life changer. You say, if I can get one thing done today, what will make me feel like, okay, this day was valuable? And so every day I think about what that is, write down one thing, and then that's my number one goal. And after that, if I have time, which you normally do, I'll attack my to-do list. But just having one goal is incredibly focusing. So having a schedule you stick to, roughly, my schedule isn't necessarily based on 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. It's more, these are the things I need to do. And I kind of, sometimes I wake up really early and do it that way. Sometimes I'm jet lagged and wake up late and will, work into the evening. But my whole thing is just focusing on hacks that allow you to work smarter instead of harder. Delegation's clearly one of that. I have an amazing virtual assistant named Sarah who's in Denver. She manages my schedule. She keeps me on track. She manages my time zone. So when I touch down in a new time zone, she adjusts all my calendars and my meetings and reminds me, hey, this meeting's now at midnight, so I moved it to 6 p.m., things like that.
That's awesome. Have you found it easy to connect with virtual assistants, or have you gone through a lot of them, or?
Well, my last company, Zirtual, was a virtual executive assistant service. So and I helped build out the hiring flow for that. So I've definitely kind of gotten down pat how to hire an assistant. All my assistants before Sarah were through Zirtual.
Okay.
And then before that, I would hire outsourced help in the Philippines. But now I just go on Upwork.com and I use my traditional hiring funnel that I use to hire RZAs to hire my own assistant. And I've had Sarah, I think for a year now, and she's just phenomenal. I really like having a long-term relationship with my assistant because we both grow together and learn each other's work styles, and it's just mutually beneficial. It's a win-win.
Yeah, definitely. And do you have a home base at all, or?
I don't. I haven't for the last 6 months.
Wow.
I was living in San Francisco before that, but now I have a PO box in San Francisco. I have my extra luggage in the trunk of the car I share with my ex. And whenever I touch down in San Francisco, I go swap out bags if I need to. And then I'll stay in a hotel or with a friend. And then I'm off to the next location.
Oh, wow.
So you don't really have a typical day in the life of Maren.
No, my days change. It really depends on where I am. I took a red eye to get in to London yesterday from San Francisco, and adjusting will take some time. And then I'm off to Miami, and then from Miami probably home to Nevada for Thanksgiving, and then probably off to Tokyo. So it really depends. But I try to stay consistent with a daily ritual.
Awesome.
Definitely.
I was going to ask, what is something you try and do in each city that you work in? Like, is there just something that you just have to do? Do you take advice from locals? Do you look online for things to do? You got to work in some leisure, yeah.
I wander. Wandering is my favorite thing to do. I love walking cities, walking new places. So I will just start off from wherever I'm staying, just walk in a direction and just stumble upon things as I go. I don't like the whole Yelp approach or I'm kind of a Luddite when it comes to that sort of things. I don't look for things to do on Groupon or events. I'll use apps like I'm a member of a small world. I'll use that to meet up people for drinks, which is nice. I'm a member of Summit community, so sometimes hit up people within that community. But for the most part, finding new things to do, I'll just stumble upon whatever's in my path, and I find that there's a lot more interesting things that way. I also try to I only use my phone in Wi-Fi mode when I'm traveling abroad, even though international plans are relatively inexpensive now. But I really enjoy the disconnection and only being able to send messages, update things when I have a Wi-Fi connection. So I really enjoy the solace.
That's good. Not a lot of people could do that.
That's really impressive, especially in this day and age. One of my other questions is more centered around how you built a community both online and offline, because it really sounds like people who do utilize Roam get that sense of community already just based off where they're living. So do you have any tips for that, or anything you've learned specifically over the years doing this?
For building community?
Yeah, both online and offline.
I mean, common goals, common interests are definitely a strong one. Creating a culture, a strong culture, and the culture can really be anything. The culture is whatever the group, the original group, says it is or thinks it is. So saying, hey, this is what we believe, this is what we don't believe, and then letting people that have similar views and thoughts on life as you do, having them find you, I found is the best way to create a community. So with Roam, it is people who believe in the idea of traveling the world and living in community with other people versus, maybe living in a penthouse all alone. With Zirtual, it was the idea of being able to work virtually and the freedom that flexible schedules gives you. So whatever your culture is, just really owning it and emphasizing it to the outsiders, and the ones that really vibe with your culture will self-select and come and join you. Seth Godin writes a lot about this.
Right.
Definitely. And overall, do you have any advice for entrepreneurs and startups right now? Since you've kind of been an entrepreneur your whole life with your first business and moving on to these other companies?
I'd say staying humble when you deal with success is incredibly important and not talked about enough. Being vulnerable as a leader, is very, very vital, and something that's great to just to kind of but just tap into over the years, keeping vulnerable, staying humble. An example of a humble CEO and guy who I think is really successful is the CEO of Automatic, which is WordPress's current mother company, Matt Mullenweg. He's just an incredibly humble, kind person, and a giant success as well. I think that's something that isn't as prominent as it should be. I think people see the Steve Jobs type of leadership and think that somehow that's right, when in reality, you're a happier person and the people around you are happier when you really err on the side of vulnerability and humility. If people are interested in coming and roaming and going to one of our properties, just reach out to me, either on Twitter, which is Maren Kate, or Maren@Roam.com, or .co, sorry, not .com. And I'd love to set them up with a little discount if they want to, start their first week roaming.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for your time. You have a really interesting story, and I loved all your blog posts I've read so far.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.